Hello, my name is Sadie Smith. This is my comprehensive project 3, where I'm going to be discussing the impact of artificial intelligence in K through 12 education and the controversy around that. So, with the recent increased usage of artificial intelligence in the past several years, in our society, educators across the globe are analyzing how this technology can be used as a tool to enhance students and teachers' experiences in the classroom. However, as this technology advances, some fear that AI could be harmful to students' education if it is abused or if users are uneducated about how to use it effectively. So, artificial intelligence offers a lot of great tools that are helpful for students and educators, but it can be a little bit scary for educators to use and to introduce into the classroom because some students are uneducated on how to use it. Teachers can be uneducated on how to use it, and there's potential for it to be abused in the classroom and end up being more harmful than helpful. So, let's discuss two sides of this controversy, kind of the pros and cons, the positives and the negatives. So, educators for AI believe that it can offer a personalized learning experience. So, a lot of what's beautiful about AI is that it offers differentiation for students in a way that teachers are incapable of because of time constraints and um, just the magnitude of students that are in a classroom with a variety of different learning needs. AI is helpful because it can differentiate content and the process for students in a way that teachers just can't. AI can also free up time for teachers to allow them to offer that, small group and one-on-one interaction with students because it can create lesson plans, worksheets, ideas, outlines, games, and exercises based on lessons. It can point you towards resources that you can use to enhance a lesson so that a teacher can have more time to invest in their students directly in a way that AI can't. Artificial intelligence can also tutor students in academic subjects and improve writing skills. This is where I've seen it help a lot. So I use Grammarly in my classroom, and it really does help students to recognize how to proofread and what mistakes they're making in their writing. And it not only helps with grammatical errors, but it also helps to make sentences less wordy, more concise, more to the point. It just helps with clearer writing. And I use it in my emails when I'm emailing my administrators and parents. It helps me to sound a little bit more professional and to get my point across more quickly. So, educators against AI believe that chatbots can produce false, misleading information. ChatGPT and OpenAI and other generative artificial intelligence resources have been known to create false information. It can make up answers, so it's always important to double check what you're utilizing in your classroom if it comes from AI. Another major concern is that it could replace critical thinking and problem solving skills. It can also replace students' individual creative thinking because it's so much easier to just come to a chatbot and ask it a question instead of working out the problem yourself. Um, Main thing that teachers are worried about is students using artificial intelligence to plagiarize and to cheat. It's pretty easy to pawn off work from AI as your own. So luckily, there have been a couple of technologies such as OpenAI Classifier and Turnitin that are able to detect AI in students' work, but they're not foolproof. So the main thing that we can do for our students is to educate them about the efficient and effective ways for us to use AI without abusing it to harm us in the future. So, some more of those positive impacts. I mentioned Grammarly. I've used this in a 5 paragraph research essay, and students really benefit from that this year. And it helps me to grade as well because it's kind of catching those mistakes for them. And so they're fixing them before I have to point them out. So it kind of makes things a little bit more efficient for me as well. Also, students with learning disabilities can sometimes struggle with typing. Any student can struggle with that. So, speech to text is really helpful. because I have a couple of students who struggle to with that brain-hand connection, getting those ideas out of the brain and down on paper. So I've seen a major difference between a paragraph written with typing and a paragraph written with, that speech to text. The speech to text paragraph is a lot more fluent because, students are able to kind of talk out their ideas without having to worry about the executive functioning part of getting that information down on paper. Google Scholar and other powerful search engines, Microsoft, Google Chrome, things like that, are very helpful for efficient research and guiding you in the right direction, instead of, just spending time searching the internet. Chatbots, like I said, are very effective for creating lesson plans, coming up with creative games and activities for educators to make their lessons more interesting so that they can focus more on their students. ITS is an intelligent tutoring system that works with students at their own pace, based on the information that the students have given the technology. They can work with students on content, on a lesson. They can offer that differentiation I was mentioning earlier in a way that teachers can't, because of the magnitude of students and the variety of different learning levels and academic levels in the classroom. ITS is a great way to get that personalized learning out of AI, and it has been known to increase test scores and have higher grades. Chatbots can also provide instant feedback on student work. We know that immediate feedback is something that's very helpful for students. It helps them to actually learn and to improve on the skill that they're practicing. And so it's also able to assess students' work in a more efficient manner. And finally, AI can offer differentiation by adjusting work to students' academic level. So I've used it to, I'll put a paragraph into ChatGPT and ask it to make it a little bit more simple to understand so that my students can read it on their own and understand it more easily. Or conversely, I can also have it make content a little bit more challenging for students who need that. So I can make a test where, for example, they are adding commas to sentences where they're needed or fixing comma errors. I can ask ChatGPT, give me 10 sentences for eighth grade students instead of, seventh grade students to edit and add commas where needed. And it can do that very easily without me having to come up with all of these sentences based on their grade level. That's usually where I use it the most. Now, the negative impact of AI, which is equally as valid, the main concern, like I mentioned earlier, is the potential use for plagiarism and cheating. It's most important that we educate our students about how AI can be harmful for, their academic and their working careers going forward. It can hinder our critical thinking, our creativity, and our problem solving skills to make us less valuable in the workplace going forward, or valuable in, college setting. So it's very important that we continue to practice our creative thinking skills outside of ChatGPT or other AI and use those tools as tools and assistants rather than kind of taking over our workload. Additionally, AI could provide information that has a racial or a gender bias. That's something that's really difficult to avoid. Um, and also, it's very important that we are checking for false information in ChatGPT. I've had many times where it's just given me, false information, and I've corrected it, and it says, "Oh yeah, you're right." So it's totally not foolproof. So that's one problem, especially for students who have a hard time recognizing what's true and what's not, and finding valuable resources. AI could also threaten data privacy. It can share personal information with outside sources, and it's hard to know when you've given this technology the permission to do that. So that's something that can be kind of scary for young students who are using that. Online algorithms with AI can be very powerful, and they just get stronger as you continue to use them. And these things can take away a student's power to choose and form opinions, because as long as you continue to use an online source, it's going to give you an algorithm, it's going to give you that same information, so it's kind of hard to change your mind about things, explore new topics with an unbiased view, because that algorithm is so strong. Additionally, it's hard to know, or hard to ensure that all students have equal access to AI as a tool. Students with learning disabilities may have trouble accessing it, and students who don't have internet at home could have trouble accessing it as well, which creates that ethical issue of some students have a tool to help them and some don't, and we're measuring them the same way. So that can definitely be difficult as well. So my personal convictions about AI in the classroom, which I have already shared a little bit, I'm a huge advocate for using ChatGPT to help with teacher tasks. I use it to create basically every grammar test that I make. Sometimes the literature tests that I'm creating need to be more personalized, so I have to kind of take that on. But if I make a grammar test, then I can make a grammar test review by just putting that grammar test in and saying, make a grammar test review that asks about the same questions, but in a different order and with different answers, so that students can practice the skills before they're assessed on it the next day. That is super helpful. Also, I've used it to, answer grammar questions that I'm not aware of or that can be kind of difficult to answer. It can also simplify discussion questions. So I've written discussion questions that are they make sense to me, but I know my students won't understand them. And I'll put it into ChatGPT and say, simplify this so that my students can understand it and give me an answer. Also, we know that this source is great for improving writing. Offering that speech to text is really great for a lot of our students. And also, text to speech is helpful for students who struggle with reading. I'll ask them to read their own paper out loud so that they can hear for those errors. And the text to speech technology in Google Docs allows them to have their paragraph read for them or their paper read for them so that they can hear it out loud. Super helpful for them. They really enjoy that. And finally, I use AI as a creative assistant. Like I said earlier, we're seeing it in basically all of the technology that we're using. So there's an AI tool in Prezi, which is a presentation software, which allows me to create intriguing presentations faster, which are really engaging for my students when things get a little boring with our content. Overall, I'm a huge advocate for artificial intelligence, and I do understand the setbacks and kind of the problems with it, but it is going to be very present in our world going forward. And I think it's important to educate our students on the power of artificial intelligence and how it can be used as a helpful tool. Thank you.